that all entails through all the decades of my life, what that set me up for, what I ended up doing, what all the struggles it brought to my life, made so far my videos really sad and depressing. So today I thought I'd share with you the fact that not all of my life was so awful. I mean, although I struggled to be quasi-normal emotionally, I've had and still have some really beautiful highlights in my life that I'm really thankful for, and blessings that I never could have imagined would happen to me. Here are some of the best ones. This is baby girl Sarah Jasmine. There's a glare, but here she's 1. And I used to have this done at a place called the Gingerbread House in Bradford County, Pennsylvania, which at the time I lived in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. The Poconos was 3 hours then from this place in Bradford County. So that's where my parents lived, in Nichols, New York, and that's where that came from, the 3-hour drive and all that. But I kept my ties with that area. I used to take all these children to my own pediatrician in what's gone now, but it used to be the Tioga General Hospital. And I have a little story about that after I show you these guys. These are my little ones. Ooh, I wish there wasn't that glare. I don't know if you can see. That same studio took this. Let me get them closer. Farther away. This is my little angels. The oldest one standing up there now is 31 or 30. Sorry, Kel. The little guy down there, the boy, he just announced his upcoming wedding at 26, and there's baby girl again. So, you know, I so enjoyed my babies, but I thought I'd show you them today. And all throughout my house are so many photos. Look, see if I can show you here. There's a whole bunch of them there. If I move this camera in any direction, you're going to see lots and lots of photos of my children. But I've always enjoyed them. You know, unlike my mother, she had absolutely no photos of any of us except the golden child, who I think it wasn't her who took the photos either, or responsible for them. She had hundreds and hundreds of pictures of her, but that was because I think my grandmother and grandfather took those photos of the golden child, who was the first child. When she was staying with them, my father was in the Korean War, or the end of the Korean War, and he was in Korea. And I think then my mother had the baby and lived with her parents there in their home, something she would never ever do for any of her children, and announced that to us. But that was sweet. My grandparents, her parents, were really good people. I mean, I loved my grandmother, her mother, so much, and I knew her very well. I had a good relationship with her despite the bullshit, alienation, triangulation, lies, manipulation by the narcissistic mother to destroy that over all those years. I still maintained a relationship with my grandmother, who was not a narcissist, didn't even have an odd number of narcissistic traits. So my mother was the spoiled child on a pedestal. So I'm still a little confused about where that is, whether she has in the amygdala or something, some brain disturbances. I don't know. But I wouldn't say she has any disease. This is all deliberate, and she's very proud of everything she does. If someone could wave a magic wand and fix her to be quasi-normal, she'd refuse. She enjoys this, just like Sam Backman said. So other than that, those are my babies. My grandfather, her father, he was also really special. I remember him because he loved me so much. I remember he died when I was 3, so it sounds a little strange how I would remember him so much, but I do. I told when my grandmother was convalescing after cancer surgery and very, very ill, almost ready to pass away, I had a visit with her, and it came up about Grandpa, and I was able to describe to her him in detail, not from pictures either, how he smelled. He had a slaughterhouse, smelled like sawdust, what he looked like, what he always wore, where he sat in the house, everything about him. I remember everything, and he was a good man. He used to tickle my belly and throw me in the air. I loved him, and I've had a couple of people that are intuitives tell me that they see an old man with white hair that stands on my left side behind me, and I know it's him. But so he never did anything to her. These narcissists are liars. But I don't even know if I want to put that in this video, what she did concerning him. So he made her a dollhouse. I should have that in the video. I have the dollhouse. He made her a dollhouse, a replica of their house. They lived on Long Island. They had like a Cape Cod house. They owned a butcher shop. I mean, the house was new. They had a nice life. And then she was born in 1935. When she was 12, he had a breakdown. So maybe had something, all of this has something, I don't know. They had to sell everything and move to this farm in upstate New York. And she never forgave them for all of that, because she always described she had her roller skates and her wealthy friends, and they would roller skate up and down the street. They'd go into the city. They had, they had their Charlotte Russe. They had this, they had that. She had her fancy clothes. She had her dollhouse. She had her own room. She had this beautiful house, and then they moved out to this farm, and it was really bad according to her. But I spent time on that farm my whole life, and it was really beautiful. And he was one special man with animals, and I think that's where I get that from, with children. I mean, it was wonderful. His breakdown was because well, for many reasons, probably. He probably was one of us, the sensitives, the empaths, and it was the country was still in recovery from the Great Depression. Remember, she was born in 35. The breakdown was when she was 12. So that would be like 17, 18 years after the Great Depression, and people were still struggling and suffering, and they would come into his butcher shop and tell him, please, I can't I can't pay on my bill, but I need some meat for dinner. Could you just give me a pound of this or a pound of that? And he would tell people, I can't pay my bills. Somebody has to pay. And he just kept giving them, their meat. And I think he couldn't say no. enough, and he couldn't, you know, when you don't have the tools really to survive this, you're just not coming. And he had this breakdown when this woman came in with a mink coat and a Shih Tzu puppy, a Shih Tzu dog. And she looked in the case and she said, give me a pound of this and a pound of that, and I'll take these chops. Oh, and she said, give me some of that chopped meat for my dog. And that was the last thing he remembered. He snapped because he knew there were people that, you know, didn't have meat for their children. And he just, she said, the woman with the dog said that he just went blank, dropped what he was doing, took his apron off, walked out of the shop, and just walked all the way home. Never went back, sold the place, and had this breakdown. It was terrible. I don't know all the details of the breakdown or what they did in those days for a nervous breakdown, but I think moving to the countryside and getting away from what he couldn't deal with, the public and how people just take advantage of sensitive and decent people, was the best thing for him. And he had a slaughterhouse on this farm, and all these animals too. And I think it was the best thing for everyone. It must have been wonderful, but, you know, my mother made it miserable as she could make it. She balked the whole way, complained until she's 81 or 82 years old right now. I don't know how old she is. Born in 35, right? So whatever old she is now, I'm sure she's still complaining about it. I could tell you so much more in another video about, my God, her parents suffered with her. Couldn't imagine having a narcissistic child. Thank God. I had 3 children, and no narcissists, no borderlines. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't get damaged because of me. They certainly must have. But we've, like other YouTubers have said, it stops with me, and it stops now. I started getting better about 6 or 7 years ago, and even 10 years before that, you know, I was working really hard to not, you know, to put an end to all this. So my kids are okay. I'm really grateful for that. I just got off the phone with one of them, and of course the other one's coming this week, and getting married very soon, and I'm very excited about that. But I wanted to share these pictures with you, and my grandfather, and maybe it would be a happier note. One other thing before I stop the video is, I guess you all know this who belong to the community, but if you're just visiting for the first time, you know, I'm not on here just to complain and blame others. You know, I take responsibility as an adult. But the one thing that really is hard to get over, and I'm struggling with and working hard, is the damage done to me as an adult by this narcissistic lying mother, you know. And so I was watching last night on Netflix, another YouTuber was saying to tune into this show and you will just see the narcissistic family dynamic play out, and you can pick it all out, and you know, all the terms come out because you're just seeing all the players. And I saw myself as that scapegoated, the scapegoat. You know, these are the Rayburns in Florida that have the resort. I don't remember the name of the show. It's on Netflix. It's a series with Sissy Spacek as the mother, the narcissistic, covert narcissistic mother. But you can't, if you don't know about this, you would never know. You will never know that she's the whole